spiritual master. And it's explained that unless we take shelter of the spiritual master, it's very, very difficult to understand everything. In fact, it is impossible to make progress in spiritual life without taking shelter of one's spiritual master. And therefore, this is not just something for these sanghas, but actually it's just a lesson that we should take into our daily lives before we do any activity to do Mangalacharan prayers. Even if we don't do Mangalacharan for our usual day-to-day activities now, if we manually do it, what that does is it encourages us to remember Krishna. And so even if it's something small, like beginning your day at work, we request that please take these Mangalacharan prayers very seriously. So, without further ado, let's begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunadhanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bhando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So, we'll begin reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. Can you give me access to screen sharing? And we'll do the Srimad Bhagavatam prayers as well. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudhirayet nashtaprayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. So now we're ready to go into the Srimad Bhagavatam. This Mangalacharan prayers, I think the easiest way of explaining is like knocking on the door before you enter someone's house. So we cannot just run into someone's house. We have to knock on that door beforehand. And so the same thing is required in our spiritual life, that we knock on the door of our spiritual masters and we take the dust of their lotus feet so that we can try and understand and more importantly, apply these principles in our life so that we can bring a transformation of heart so that we can serve. So if we have this kind of mindset and we, actually go into the Bhagavatam with this mood, like, I want to improve, then the spiritual masters will definitely help us. Okay. Yes, that's right. In previous chapters, we have discussed that Indra had got himself in a very difficult situation by offending Brihaspati, then by killing Vishvarupa, and then finally by killing, in our final chapter, he killed Vritrasra. And so now the question that links this chapter to the previous chapter is that Parikshit Maharaj naturally has a question. Vritrasra is a demon by birth. How is it that he has such pure devotional standards? And so this is the question that links the chapters together, and this pastime is then narrated in that relation. So if we can have some devotees to read the first 8 verses of chapter 14, the translations, that would be very, very nice. Yeah.
ready, Prabhuji?
Yes, please go ahead.
Till 14, yeah?
Mataji, I don't know if it's just me, but you sound a little quiet.
Yeah, sorry. Is this better now?
It's a
It is still quieter.
Oh, just one moment. I'll just go into that volume thing, go put it off and put it on again. Is this better?
It's quiet,
Slightly.
but we can hear you, so it's fine.
Yes, guys. Okay. Okay, if you can't hear me, tell me, then I'll stop. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. King Parikshit inquired from Shukdev Goswami, O learned Brahmana, demons are generally sinful, being obsessed with the modes of passion and ignorance. How then could Vritasura have attained such exalted love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan? Demigods situated in the mode of goodness and great saints cleansed of the dirt of material enjoyment hardly ever render pure devotional service at the lotus feet of Mukunda. Therefore, how could Vritasura have become such a great devotee? In this material world, there are many living entities as atoms. Among these living entities, a few are human beings, and among them, few are interested in following religious principles. O best of the Brahmanas, Shukdev Goswami, out of many persons who follow religious principles, only a few desire liberation from the material world. Among many thousands who desire liberation, one may actually achieve liberation, giving up material attachment to society, friendship, love, country, home, wife, and children. And among many thousands of such liberated persons, one who can understand the true meaning of liberation is very rare.
Can you move the screen, Sundar Chaitanya?
O great sage, among many millions who are liberated and perfect in knowledge of liberation, one may be a devotee of Lord Narayan or Krishna. Such devotees who are full who are fully peaceful are extremely rare. Vritasura was situated in the blazing fire of battle and was an infamous, sinful demon, always engaged in giving troubles and anxieties to others. How could such a demon become so greatly Krishna conscious? My dear Lord, Shukdev Goswami, although Vritasura was a sinful demon, he showed the prowess of a most exalted Kshatriya and satisfied Lord Indra in battle. How could such a demon be a great devotee of Lord Krishna? These contradictions have caused me great doubt, and they have made me eager to hear of this from you. You can scroll up. Yeah, thank you. Sri Sutta Goswami said, after hearing Maharaj Parikshit's very intelligent question, Shukdev Goswami, the most powerful sage, began answering his disciple with great affection. Sri Shukdev Goswami said, O king, I shall speak to you the same history I have heard from the mouths of Vyasadev, Narada, and Devala. Please listen with attention.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
So, these beginning verses are Parikshit Maharaj inquiring about Vritrasura being such an exalted devotee. You know, for us, it might seem like something magical, actually. Especially if you don't know the history, and the first time you're hearing a story, you're hearing there's a demon who's fighting Indra, and not only that, Lord Vishnu is telling Indra how to defeat that demon, but that demon is actually so elevated, so pure, that he becomes almost like a spiritual master for Indra. It will seem very rare, it's very shocking. Maybe an equivalent in the modern day is, if you're going to the bank of a river, and it's just a normal beach in Blackpool or something like that, and all of a sudden you're seeing a diamond on the floor. You'll think, wow, how all of a sudden did this diamond get here? So in that same way, the rarity of devotion means that Parikshit Maharaj is questioning, how is it that Vritrasura is a pure devotee? There must be some kind of backstory to this. So actually, one of the very beautiful verses, there are several beautiful verses here, but there's the one I wanted to quote in particular was number 5. Prabhupada quotes this sometimes, you've probably heard this. It's a really, really powerful verse. Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayana Sudhurlabha prashantatma kotishvapi mahamune. O great sage, among many millions who are liberated and perfect in knowledge of the liberation, one may be a devotee of Lord Narayana or Krishna. Such devotees who are fully peaceful are extremely rare. Okay? So let's just talk a little bit about this rarity of Krishna consciousness before we proceed. The analysis that Parikshit Maharaj has given as follows, so I'm just going to establish like that. The first thing is the outer circle, you can say. Right? The set that includes everyone, the unlimited living entities. That's the first group, all living entities. Among all living entities, it's extremely rare to find people who are interested in dharma, in religion, right? And you can see this in the present day. There are so many people, very few are interested in religion. Among many, many such personalities who are interested in religion, it is even rarer to find those who are religious who are inclined for liberation, who are trying to get out of this material world. It's very easy to find religious people who want things in this world, sukha sampati garave, like this, you know? Like, I want nice house, I want nice family, I want nice kids, like that. It's very, very rare to find people that just want to serve the Lord, that just want to be liberated. Among such personalities who are liberated, among so many great personalities who are desiring liberation, very few are actually liberated. Okay, so you have the infinite living entities. Some of them very few desire religious principles. Very few of those desire liberation, and very few of those people are actually liberated. Okay? Then, among liberated persons, many of them are not interested in serving the Supreme. They simply want to merge into the existence of the Supreme. Okay? So it's very, very rare to find those liberated persons who want to serve. So in this way, you can see that of the group of everyone that is there, the rarity of devotional service is highlighted. Infinite living entities, a few of them are dharmic, they are religious, they are like humans, they behave like humans, not like animals. Amongst those human-like people, very few are interested in liberation. Amongst those liberated, very few are desiring liberation, very few are liberated. And amongst those who are liberated, it's even rarer to become a devotee. Similarly, we have this verse in the Bhagavad Gita, 7.19. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. That after many, many, many births, a liberated person who is truly in complete knowledge, who understands that Vasudeva Sarvamiti, that's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is Lord Krishna, is found. So it's so rare to be a devotee, right? So actually this highlights something for us, which is we're all, very happy. You want to see a lecture, you just go on YouTube, type in a Srila Prabhupada lecture. You want to hear a class, go to your local ISKCON temple. We forget the rarity of devotion. The reality is, where we are at the moment is the result of thousands, if not millions of lifetimes of progress if we were trying by ourselves to achieve this goal, right? We are so fortunate to be in the position that we are in, and the best thing to do is to make use of this opportunity. Again, coming back to this verse number 5, Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayana. Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayana. A great sage, among many millions who are liberated and perfect in knowledge, one may be devotee of the Supreme Lord. A very interesting thing is mentioned here. Such devotees are extremely rare. And they are also very peaceful. Prashantatma. I want to tell a little story in regards to this and then we'll get on. Don't worry, I'm highlighting this for a main reason, which is it's so important for us to understand the rarity of devotion. It's described that there was once a father who had 5 children. The 5th child constantly used to disrespect the father. Constantly. In fact, he treated him like he didn't exist. Right? The 4th child, He did actually, acknowledge the father's existence, but he was very transactional with the father. He only went to the father and tried to get things from him. Can you give me money, Dad? I need to go and do some of this. Can you give me some of this, Dad? I want this. Very transactional. Okay. The third son, he was a little bit more respectful, and he actually inquired every now and then about his father's welfare. But he also still wanted things. The second son, he, as well as respecting his father, as well as wanting things, he kept on trying to learn things from his father because he was interested in how he can gain the property and the land of his father after his father passes away. And the first son was the one who only cared about serving the father. Okay? Of these 5 sons, it's an obvious question, it's a rhetorical question, which one is the dearest to the father? Which one?
First one.
First son.
The first son, right? This is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakalaya Shanta. Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ata Eva Shanta. Okay? The 5th son who doesn't acknowledge the existence of the father is like an atheist, where the father is the supreme lord. The 5th son is like an atheist. The father is there, but he doesn't want to acknowledge his existence. He wishes that he's the controller. He doesn't want to be bossed around. The 4th son is like a bhukti. He just wants to enjoy the things that the father's giving. He doesn't care about anything else. He just wants to enjoy. So the 4th son is like a bhukti. He's trying to enjoy this world, karmi. Then the 3rd son, who is respectful but trying to enjoy, is like you can say kind of a mixture of karma and jnana. He knows a little bit, but he still wants to enjoy. He's a kind of mixtured spiritualist. The 2nd son, who serves and respects, but is trying to become like the father, is like a jnani. Because the jnani is trying to get out of this world, but is trying to become one with Krishna. He's trying to kind of merge his identity with Krishna. He cannot accept the position of servant to Krishna. But the bhakta is the person that simply wants to serve. And when you just want to serve Krishna, what happens is you don't have anything to worry about, you don't have anything to fear, and therefore the devotee is considered peaceful. So if I come back to this verse, now you'll have a different kind of analysis or depth or relishment of this point. Prashantatma. Okay, a devotee is prashantatma. He is nishkama. He has no other desire. His only desire is to serve. Okay, if he ever appears worried, it's because he's just worrying about how to serve. That's not really even worrying. Okay, so such devotees are peaceful and extremely rare. Okay, so this is the first point. In verses 1 to 8, we hear Parikshit's inquiry and we learn about the rareness of devotional service, and it should inspire us to take our devotional service seriously. Now, if we can have someone reading from 9 to 13, where we will actually go into the story of the past life of Vritrasura.
Is anybody willing to read? Prema Bhakti.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Prema Bhakti, you want to read, or would you like Bhuvaneshwari Mata? There is another section also.
It's okay. I can read this if you want.
Okay, no problem. And then later on, Bhuvaneshwari Mata.
Is it small? Should I make it bigger?
That's okay, Prabhu.
Okay.
That's fine. Yeah. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, "O King, I shall speak to you the same history I have heard from the mouths of Vasudev, Deva, Narad, and Devala. Listen with attention. Please listen with attention. O King Parikshit, in the province of Surasena, there was a king named CH14 who ruled the entire earth. During his reign, the earth produced all the necessities for life. This CH14 had 10 million wives, but although he was capable of producing children, he did not receive a child from any of them. By chance, all the wives were barren. Chitraketu, the husband of these millions of wives, was endowed with a beautiful form, magnanimity, and youth. He was born in a high family. He had complete education, and he was wealthy and opulent. Nevertheless, in spite of being endowed with all these assets, he was full of anxiety because he did not have a son. His queens all had beautiful faces and attractive eyes, yet neither his opulences, his hundreds of thousands of queens, nor the land of which he was the supreme proprietor were sources of happiness for him.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, in this section from verses 9 to 13, we get the backstory, the history. Who has he heard this history from? He gives his sources. Vyasadeva Muni, Narada Muni, and Devala Muni. These are where I've heard this story from. So it's an authorized story. Vritrasra the demon, as we have discussed in his previous life, was the great king Chitraketu. Okay, keep these names in mind. Chitraketu is the name of the king. He rules a kingdom. The name of the kingdom is Shurasena. Okay? Shurasena, the king is called Chitraketu. And he ruled the entire earth, actually. So his capital was in Shurasena, but he actually ruled the entire earth. And because of his great rule, the earth was very, very happy and produced all the great, the grains and the foodstuffs that are required. The rains fell on time. Everything was as amazing as you could want. Not only that, he had 10 million wives. Maybe you don't want that. But he had 10 million wives. They were all very beautiful. He was also very beautiful. He was magnanimous. He was opulent. He had everything you could want. But he had no son. Sometimes life is like this. You ask anyone, how are you? Oh, I have this, I have this, I have this, I have this, but I do not have this. So there is always some anxiety in this world. And so that was his anxiety. Okay? His anxiety is just one anxiety, which is, I don't have a son. So even though he had everything, it was causing lots of difficulty for him. Okay? Then the next section, verses 14 to 22. We will go a little bit more, we will flesh out a little bit more of the story. Does we have any volunteers?
Am I reading?
Yes,
Prabhuji?
Mataji. Yes, Mataji, you can read.
Yeah. Okay, Hare Krishna. Text 14. Once upon a time, when the powerful sage named Angira was traveling all over the universe without engagement, by his sweet will he came to the palace of King Chitraketu. Text 15. Chitraketu immediately stood up from his throne and offered him worship. He offered drinking water and eatables, and in this way performed his duty as a host to a great guest. When the rishi was seated very comfortably, the king, restraining his mind and senses, sat on the ground at the side of the rishi's feet. Text 16. O King Parikshit, when Chitraketu bent low in humility, was seated at the lotus feet of the great sage, the sage congratulated him for his humility and hospitality. The sage addressed him in the following words. Text 17. The great sage Angira said, My dear king, I hope that your body and mind and your royal associates and paraphernalia are well. When the 7 properties of material nature, the total material energy, the ego, and the 5 objects of sense gratification are in proper order, the living entity within the material elements is happy. Without these 7 elements, one cannot exist. Similarly, a king is always protected by 7 elements: his instructor, Swami or Guru, his ministers, his kingdom, his fort, his treasury, his royal order, and his friends. Text 18. O king, O Lord of humanity, when a king directly depends upon his associates and follows their instructions, he is happy. Similarly, when his associates offer their gifts and activities to the king and follow his orders, they are also happy. Text 19. O king, are your wives, citizens, secretaries, and servants, and the merchants who sell spices and oil under your control? Are you also in full control of ministers, the inhabitants of your palace, your provincial governors, your sons, and your other dependents? Text 20. If the king's mind is fully controlled, all his family members and governmental officers are subordinate to him. His provincial governors present taxes on time, without resistance, and what to speak of lesser servants. Text 21. O King Chitraketu, I can observe that your mind is not pleased. You seem not to have achieved your desired goal. Is this because of you yourself, or has it been caused by others? Your pale face reflects your deep anxiety. Text 22. Sukdev Goswami said, O King Parikshit, although the great sage Angira knew everything, he inquired from the king in this way. Thus King Chitraketu, desiring a son, went low in great humility and spoke to the great sage as follows.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Madam. Thank you so much for very nice reading. So this is Angira Muni. Okay, so we had King Chitraketu. He has 10 million wives. He's ruling from the province of Shurasena, and he's ruling the entire globe, and everything is looking good. Angira Muni comes and inquires of him about his distress. And so there are many lessons here for leadership and for kingly rule and who all should be kept happy, and those who are more interested in the political science and the Niti Shastras can look into these things, and Prabhupada does instruct about these things. You know, for a king, you should have a guru, you have your ministers, you should have the kingdom, you should have fortifications and security, you should have monetary supply, you should have legal system, law enforcement, and of course you should have a support crew of your dearmost friends. So this is things for leaders. But ultimately, you should control your mind if you want to be happy, is what Angira Muni is saying. If your mind is controlled, then all the things are easily done. This thing we already know. So it doesn't matter whether you're a king or a nobody, a citizen. In the end of the day, if our mind is not controlled by us, we will become distressed. And what does he say? He says that I can observe that your mind is not pleased. Why? Because your pale face reflects your deep anxiety. Anyone that hears Prabhupada morning walks, Srila Prabhupada always says repeatedly one phrase: the face is the index of the mind. And you ask any Srila Prabhupada disciple, they will tell you that yes, he had one amazing power, siddhi, that he acquired from his greatness and devotion, which was he could see, by seeing a person's face, he could understand the person. Because the face reflects your mind. You'll see if you're angry, you'll actually show in a certain way on your face, even if you try and hide it. So the face reflects the internal state. So Srila Prabhupada had that power, and he repeatedly used to say, the face is the index of the mind. So in this way, Angira Muni is like Srila Prabhupada, he's like a great sage. And so the great sages, they can see, they have that ability of reading the face and understanding the mind through the face. And so he's asking, why is it that you are upset? Of course, make no mistake, Angira Muni knows the cause of the distress. Of course, he's a great sage. Even sometimes the spiritual masters, the spiritual teachers, they know what's going on. But they don't want to make you embarrassed. So they will let you tell the problem rather than them revealing. Many of you may have had this experience with your spiritual masters or great devotees, that it's like standing in front of a photocopier or a scanner. You know, X-ray is being seen. They are just scanning. They don't look at the body. They're looking deep into the self. One time I remember I think maybe Bhakti Charu Maharaj or Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Prabhupada memories, they said that when Srila Prabhupada first looked at me, that time I felt so shameful because I felt like he could see the anarthas in my heart because he's scanning me. I felt like I was naked, you know, almost in front of the spiritual master. He could see, oh, this is my anartha, this is my that. And if you have experience with devotees, you will see that they can scan like this, because they have that potency, because of their devotion. So Angira Muni knew everything, and he's inquiring, what is it that's causing your difficulty? Nana, do you have anything to add in relation to this?
No, that's fine.
Okay, so the first section we learn about the rarity of devotion, and why we should become a good devotee. The second section, we saw that no matter what you may have, even if everything is in your side, the material world causes something to be in there which causes anxiety for you. And the third thing we've learned is that in this section, the great personalities, they are like scanners. They have like X-ray vision, and they can see everything. They can see everything. They know exactly what's happening, and they come into our life to guide us. Okay, so the great sage Angira has now spoken, and now Parikshit Maharaj, not Parikshit, Chitraketu Maharaj will explain the cause of his anxiety. So, can we have someone to read from verse 23 to 26?
Do you want me to read, Prabhuji?
Yeah, please go on.
Yes, Mataji, yes.
Till what text? Sorry, apologies.
26. 23 to 26.
Thank you. King Chitraketu said, O great Lord Angira, because of austerity, knowledge, and transcendental samadhi, you are freed from all the reactions of sinful life. Therefore, as a perfect yogi, you can understand everything external and internal regarding embodied conditioned souls like us. O great soul, you are aware of everything, yet you are asking me why I am full of anxiety. Therefore, in response to your order, let me disclose the cause. As a person aggrieved by hunger and thirst is not pleased by the external gratification of flower garlands or sandalwood pulp, I am not pleased with my empire, opulence, or possessions, which are desirable even for great demigods, because I have no son. Hare Krishna.
One more verse, Mataji.
Therefore, O great sage, please save me and my forefathers who are descending to the darkness of hell because I have no progeny. Kindly do something so that I may have a son to deliver us from hellish conditions. Haribol.
Thank you. So Chitraketu Maharaj he's been a good disciple here. He has revealed the cause of anxiety. He's revealed, I have everything, but I do not have a son. And so this is causing me great distress. And the example he gives is quite a good one. As a person aggrieved by hunger and thirst is not pleased by flower garland or sandalwood pulp, in that way I am not happy because I have no son. It doesn't matter what the great kingdom is. So sometimes it's like that in the world. We have so many things, but there is anxiety over one thing, and because of the anxiety over one thing, we are not able to appreciate the many, many millions of wonderful things which we have. This is the nature of material reality. It's called the if mindset. You may have seen kind of graphics about this. A person is riding a cycle. He thinks if I have a bike, if I have a car, I'll be happy. The person in the car is thinking, maybe if I had a nice sports car, I'll be happy. Person in the sports car is thinking, maybe if I have a helicopter, I'll be happy. Person in the helicopter is thinking, maybe if I have a private jet, I'll be happy. There is no end. The person in the private jet is also still not happy. So in this way, there is no end with this if. We always think, if I have this. So there's always something which will cause the anxiety. Okay, so he's given his reason, and of course he's tried to present a reason for it, which is also valid. For a king, the main worry that they have is not having the heir to the throne. You need to have a proper kind of way of giving up your kingdom, training your son to take over, so that when you can nicely retire, hand over the kingdom in safe hands, and you can go to the forest and take on Vanaprastha or something like that. Another thing is very important, which is that having a son means that the son can offer pinda, which basically allows the forefathers to be taken care of. And so it's a genuine anxiety, but it's anxiety for a son that he has. Now, we will see 27 to 37. The merciful Angira Rishi will help Chitraketu. Well, he will help him and teach him a lesson. But sorry, I'm going ahead of myself. Yeah, please. Can we have a devotee to read from 27 to 37? Any devotees? Any volunteers?
If nobody, then I can read, Prabhuji.
Yes, Bhuvaneshwari Mataji.
Go ahead, Mataji, please.
Text 27. In response to the request of Maharaj Chitraketu, Angira Rishi, who was born of Lord Brahma's mind, was very merciful towards him. Because the sage was a greatly powerful personality, he performed a sacrifice by offering oblations of sweet rice to Twasta. Text 28. O Parikshit Maharaj, best of the Bharatas, the remnants of the food offered in the yagna were given by the great sage Angira to the first and most perfect among Chitraketu's millions of queens, whose name was Kritadyuti. Text 29. Thereafter the great sage told the king, O great king, now you will have a son who will be the cause of both jubilation and lamentation. The sage then left without waiting for Chitraketu's response. Text 30. As Kirtika Devik, after receiving the semen of Lord Shiva from Agni, conceived a child named Skanda, Kartikeya. Krutadyuti, having received semen from Chitraketu, became pregnant after eating remnants of food from the yagna performed by Angira. After receiving semen from Maharaj Chitraketu, the king of Surasena, Queen Kritadyuti gradually developed in her pregnancy. O King Parikshit, just as the moon develops during the bright fortnight. Text 32. Thereafter, in due course of time, a son was born to the king. Hearing news of this, all the inhabitants of the state of Sursena were extremely pleased. Text 33. King Chitraketu was especially pleased. After purifying himself by bathing and by decorating himself with ornaments, he engaged learned Brahmins in offering benedictions to the child and performing the birth ceremony. Text 34. Unto the Brahmanas who took part in the ritualistic ceremony, the king gave charity of gold, silver, garments, ornaments, villages, horses, and elephants, as well as 60 crores of cows, 600 million cows. Text 35. As a cloud indiscriminately pours water on the earth, the beneficent King Chitraketu, to increase the reputation, opulence, and longevity of his son, distributed like rainfall all desirable things to everyone. Text 36. When a poor man gets some money, after great difficulty, his affection for the money increases daily. Similarly, when King Chitraketu, after great difficulty, received a son, his affection for the son increased day after day. Text 37. The mother's attraction and attention to the son, like that of the child's father, excessively increased. The other wives, seeing Kritadyuti's son, were very much agitated, as if by high fevers, with a desire to have sons. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. So, he has a son. Angira Muni leaves him a son, but he leaves the son and says, your son will be the cause of both jubilation and lamentation. And then he goes, without waiting for a response. So it's described by the Acharyas that Chitraketu understood Angira Muni's words in this way. There will certainly be jubilation because of the birth of a son, but because he will be the only son, he will become very proud and arrogant. Therefore he will not be obedient. Therefore I may not be able to control him. So that was Chitraketu's analysis. When he was trying to rationalize, what does it mean? Lamentation and jubilation. He thought, oh, okay, jubilation means I have a son, and lamentation means he won't listen to me. That was his analysis. But of course, that's not the case. Then, which of the queens? Kritadyuti. Kritadyuti, his foremost queen, gives birth to a son after accepting the prasada of the yajna. So, Angira Muni carries out a yajna with Tvashta, offering oblations to Tvashta. He then takes the prasad of that and gives it to Kritadyuti, who then has a son. And then after the birth of the son, Chitraketu Maharaj rejoices by providing all kinds of, gold, silver, garments. How many? 600 million cows. That's like the world record for the number of cows distributed. There's so many cows he distributed, so many things. He was indiscriminately pouring the riches and wealth across all the brahmanas, across all of society, in the joy of having a son. And it's described when a poor man gets some money after great difficulty, he becomes extremely attached to the money. In that same way, after great difficulty, he's finally conceived of, he's finally had a son born, so he's so attached. He's so attached to the child, he's so jubilant, so happy. But everything in the material life, it's always a but. Along with happiness in this world comes another thing, distress. Srila Prabhupada describes, in the tape recorder, you cannot get tape side A without getting side B. If any of you know how a tape recorder works, maybe that makes sense to you. My generation, that doesn't mean anything to me. I had to do research, actually. What does it mean, side A, side B? So apparently you have to turn it the other way around if you're recording. So basically, you will always get two sides on the tape recorder. You can never get just one side. In that same way, material life, happiness is always with some misery, and misery is always with some happiness. You cannot isolate them. And you will see that those people, this is not a new phenomenon. Those people that try to enjoy too much when the happiness comes, they will have the greatest distress when the misery comes. I mean, I can give you modern day example. There was recently a boxer, not so recently, but there was a boxer called Tyson Fury. He made it the goal of his life to beat Klitschko, another boxer, world-renowned boxer. So guess what? He did it. He beat Klitschko. Tyson Fury beat Klitschko. And you know what happened? His life went completely downhill after that. Right? Because he tried to enjoy the happiness too much, then what happens is the misery comes in. And you'll see this with all kinds of sports people. Srila Prabhupada writes also in one purport, you'll see this phenomenon with all the kinds of sports people, because they enjoy too much when the happiness comes. So when the misery comes, they just don't know how to deal with it, and their life derails completely. So this is a lesson for us. When the happiness comes in the life, do not try and enjoy it too much. Try, it's difficult, but try and be equipoised. Try and be peaceful. And when the misery comes in the life, don't become completely depressed and give up. Again, try and remain peaceful. Of course, you all know this is the first instruction that Arjuna is given in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, 2.14. The first philosophy he's told is the philosophy of body soul. The first instruction he's given is Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya Sritoshna Sukha Dukkada Agamapaya no Nisyastam Titikshasva Bharata. When the happiness and misery come like summer and winter seasons, my dear Arjun, titikshva, tolerate them. So all of us have heard the concept tolerate distress, but you should tolerate happiness, is what Krishna says. Because if you don't, then what happens is you'll become so high from the happiness that when the distress comes, you'll fall crashing down. Exactly how Chitraketu Maharaj is about to see here. Okay? And so yes, Kritadyuti has a son, hooray! But the other co-wives are now becoming envious. Would you like to add anything to this, Nana?
That's fine. I think wonderful explanation. I'm happy to hear.
Okay, so tolerate the happiness and know that all happiness is attached to distress. Actually, Prahlad Maharaj tells this in his teaching to the demons as well. He says, don't become upset when there's distress, because distress means happiness will come, and happiness means distress will come. These are some of the principles, the subtle laws of material nature. So, Kritadyuti, she has a son. The other co-wives are now going to become very agitated, because now the king is favoring Kritadyuti more than he's favoring them. And so they become envious. Every time someone is successful materially, there are always people who are ready to become envious. When Srila Prabhupada was successful, many of his godbrothers became very envious of him because of his success. This is always a phenomenon when success comes, envious people will be there. So let's see, what do envious people do? Can we have someone that reads from 38 till 43, please?
Would you do it there?
Yes, we have these three wonderful devotees rotating in cycle.
Text 38. As King Chitraketu fostered his son very carefully, his affection for Queen Krichadyuti increased, but gradually he lost affection for the other wives who had no sons. The other queens were extremely unhappy due to their being sonless. Because of the king's neglection towards them, they condemned themselves in envy and lamented. A wife who has no sons is neglected at home by her husband and dishonored by her co-wives, exactly like a maidservant. Certainly, such a woman is condemned in every respect because of her sinful life. Even maidservants who are constantly engaged in rendering service to the husband are honored by the husband, and thus they have nothing for which to lament. Our position, however, is that we are maidservants of the maidservant. Therefore, we are most unfortunate. Sri Sukadev Goswami continued, being neglected by their husband and seeing Kritaduti's opulence in possessing a son, Kritaduti's co-wives always burned in envy, which became very extremely strong. As their envy increased, their loss of their intelligence, being extremely hard-hearted and probably could you move up, please? Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Being extremely hard-hearted and unable to tolerate the king's neglect, they finally administered poison to the son.
This was a very disgusting thing.
Yeah.
The co-wives, the other wives, they became jealous.
Yeah.
Now that Chitraketu is favoring Kritadhuti, became very jealous and very envious to the point that they administered poison to kill the child. Remember, this is a newly born baby, very young, right? But when people are envious, they don't mind doing these kinds of things. So, anytime the success comes in life, and yes, everyone, you will all be successful in some respect or another. So whenever the success comes, there will always be envious persons. And they will always create plots like this. So this is something to be warned. It's also another rule or law of material nature. It's a subtle principle that whenever success comes, envy is following close by. Okay? And they poison the sun. This is very, very heinous activity. Now let's see what else happens. Okay? Verse 44.
Just one point I want to add.
Yes, please.
So here, the other co-wives are co-wives of Kritadhuti. They've been neglected. King, was giving more attention to the eldest queen, Kritadhuti, because she is the one who gave birth to the son, a child. So, if we compare this scenario with the story of Dhruva Maharaja's mother, Dhruva Maharaja's father was Uttanpad. He had two wives, Suniti and Surichi. He was more attracted to Suruchi, the youngest queen, and he neglected Suniti, mother of Dhruva Maharaj. So, how did Suniti respond in that situation compared to these co-wives of this queen? She was a devotee of the Lord. Suniti, we discussed the story of Dhruva Maharaj. In the entire story of Dhruva Maharaj, the real hero is Suniti. Because of Suniti, all the transformation took place. She was a great devotee of the Lord. She advised Dhruva to actually worship the Supreme Lord. So this is what a devotee does. Devotee gets closure even when they are neglected. They use that chance to become stronger in devotion, rather than becoming envious and harmful to other devotees or other people. So that is the comparison that I wanted to mention.
Yeah, it's a really nice point, opposite reaction. These co-wives here are killing, and in that case we see that she's encouraging to become a devotee. So it's the opposite. And there's another opposite. I don't know if anyone clocked. They said that we have become maidservants of our maidservants. How unfortunate. Right? But in spiritual life, the whole aspiration of a devotee is, please, my Lord, make me the servant of your servant. Gopihi bharatu padakamalayur dasa dasanu dasa. So you can see the opposite mentality of a devotee and a non-devotee. From the interactions here of you nicely explained, of Suniti, and in this case the co-wives here. So it's very nice. Okay, now we have the final section of the chapter, verses 44 to 62. The situation that arises afterwards. It's really it's quite a sad section, in honesty. It's a lamentation mainly of the queen and others as well.
Shall I read, Prabhuji?
Shall we? I feel like we should divide this amongst some devotees. So let's say, shall we have 44 to 50 can be one. 50 to 61 can be, 44 to 54 can be one, and then 55 to 61 can be another devotee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Meena Mataji, please go on.
Unaware of the poison administered by her co-wives, Queen Kritadyuti walked within the house, thinking that her son was sleeping deeply. She did not understand that he was dead. Thinking that her child had been sleeping for a long time, Queen Kritadyuti, who was certainly very intelligent, ordered the nurse, "My dear friend, please bring my son here." When the maidservant approached the child, who was lying down, she saw that his eyes were turned upward. There were no signs of life, all his senses having stopped, and she could understand that the child was dead. Seeing this, she immediately cried, "Now I am doomed," and fell to the ground. In great agitation, the maidservant struck her breast with both hands and cried loudly in regretful words. Hearing her loud voice, the queen immediately came, and when she approached her son, she saw that he was suddenly dead. In great lamentation, her hair and dress in disarray, the queen fell to the ground unconscious. O King Parikshit, hearing the loud crying, all the inhabitants of the palace came, both men and women. Being equally aggrieved, they also began to cry. The queens who had administered the poison also cried pretentiously, knowing full well their offense. When King Chitraketu heard of his son's death from unknown causes, he became almost blind. Because of his great affection for his son, his lamentation grew like a blazing fire. As he went to see the dead child, he kept slipping and falling on the ground. Surrounded by his ministers and other officers and the learned Brahmanas present, the king approached and fell unconscious at the child's feet, his hair and dress scattered. When the king, breathing heavily, regained consciousness, his eyes were tearful and he could not speak. Hare Krishna.
Can we have another devotee to continue until the end of the chapter?
I can read.
Yes, Mataji, please.
Text 52. When the queen saw her husband, King Chitraketu, merged in great lamentation and saw the dead child, who was the only son in the family, she lamented in various ways. This increased the pain in the cores of the hearts of all the inhabitants of the palace, the ministers and all the Brahmanas. Text 53. The garland of flowers decorating the queen's head fell, and her hair scattered. Falling tears melted the collyrium on her eyes and moistened her breast, which were covered with kumkum powder. As she lamented the loss of her son, her loud crying resembled the sweet sound of a kurari bird. Text 54. Alas, O Providence, O Creator, you are certainly inexperienced in creation, for during the lifetime of a father, you have caused the death of his son, thus acting in opposition to your creative laws. If you are determined to contradict these laws, You are certainly the enemy of living entities and are never merciful. Am I reading text 55 as well? Text 55. My Lord, you may say that there is no law that a father must die in the lifetime of his son, and that a son must be born in the lifetime of his father, since everyone lives and dies according to his own fruitive activity. However, if fruitive activity is so strong that birth and death depend upon it, there is no need of a controller or God. Again, if you say that a controller is needed because the material energy does not have the power to act, one may answer that if the bonds of affection you have created are disturbed by fruitive action, no one will raise children with affection. Instead, everyone will cruelly neglect his children, since you have cut the bonds of affection that compel a parent to raise his child. You appear inexperienced and unintelligent.
Please continue until the end of the chapter, Mataji.
Text 56. My dear son, I am helpless and very much aggrieved. You should not give up my company. Just look at your lamenting father. We are helpless because without a son, we shall have to suffer the distress of going to the darkest hellish regions. You are the only hope by which we can get out of these dark regions. Therefore, I request you not to go any further with the merciless Yam. Text 57. My dear son, you have slept a long time. Now please get up. Your playmates are calling you to play. Since you must be very hungry, please get up and suck my breast and dissipate our lamentation. Text 58. My dear son, I'm certainly most unfortunate, for I can no longer see your mild smiling. You have closed your eyes forever. I therefore conclude that you have been taken from this planet to another, from which you will not return. My dear son, I can no longer hear your pleasing voice. Text 59. Sri Sukhdev Goswami continued, accompanied by his wife, who was thus lamenting for her dead son. King Chitraketu began crying loudly with an open mouth, being greatly aggrieved. Text 60. As the king and queen lamented, all the male and female followers joined them in crying. Because of the sudden accident, all the citizens of the kingdom were almost unconscious. Text 61. When the great sage Angira understood that the king was almost dead in an ocean of lamentation, he went there with Narad Rishi. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mataji. So it's a very painful ending. The queen is providing, she's just lamenting. Queen Kritadyuti is just lamenting. In doing so, she has an argument with God. She also says that you are, what kind of person are you that you are seeing the son is dying before the father? And then she says, oh, if you say that you're doing this because of karma, then what is the need of you? If karma is supreme, then karma is great. And so then she's challenging the Lord with karma mimamsa philosophy. And then she realizes there's no point in me arguing. In verse 57, she stops her argument. And she then, verse 56, she stops her argument. And she says, look, again, she goes back to the son, please wake up, and lamenting very deeply because she has just given birth to such a nice son, and then all of a sudden her son has been taken away. So she's very deeply lamenting, and in the same way Chitraketu Maharaj as well. He's falling unconscious while walking, he's slipping, he cannot believe it. He was so attached, and everything that his whole life and soul was his son, and his son was taken away from him. So the thing, unfortunately, it's a very painful lesson, but the thing that this teaching does is that attachment brings misery. When we become overly attached to something, somehow or other it will go because of the nature of material reality, and then we'll become very distressed. Bharat Maharaj, he became super attached to that deer. And what happened? That deer died, and then he became maddened. He became crazy. What to do? So in this way, what happens is attachment means that your whole consciousness revolves around that thing. And then when that thing is taken away, we feel like we're crazy. And so therefore, for all attachment, there exists misery. This pastime is teaching us that lesson mainly. That we should not think, okay, I do not have this, therefore I'm unhappy. If I have that, I'll become happy. If we have those things, there is no guarantee of happiness. There are many things that you have now that you really wanted prior, and you thought that by having this it'll make me happy, but now actually it's like normal, right? In this way, we see that this great attachment brings great distress, great misery, and the stronger the attachment, the stronger the misery. So in this way, they are lamenting. Kritadyuti is really lamenting at the loss of her son, and all the people are lamenting. But did anyone notice what the co-wives are doing in this whole time? Let's see, did anyone pay attention to that?
Pretending to cry.
They were pretending to cry. Can you believe it? This is what an envious person is like. Actually, this is demoniac quality. We don't call them demons in this pastime because of the convention. But actually, and if you look in the pastime, these people are the demons of the pastime. They have killed an innocent child, and they are not even lamenting at the death. This is what envy does to a person. When someone is envious, they can become maddened, and they'll do all kinds of things without regret. So the co-wives, they just kill the son and they pretend to lament, but actually they are rejoicing. So in this way...
Can we read the purport to text 54?
I'm about to pull the same one up. Yeah. I'm about to pull up 54.
Short one, but very nice one.
Okay. Let me just say a few things before that. What happens, and this happens to everyone, is when things go wrong in life, our natural instinct, because we are not pure devotees, is we get angry with Krishna. Right? We get angry. You might have experienced this. You think, God, why are you doing this to me? Right? And so Kritadyuti has the exact same reaction, and Srila Prabhupada writes a very beautiful purport in this regard. I'll read the purport. This is the way a conditioned soul condemns the Supreme Creator when he meets reverses. Sometimes he accused the Supreme Personality of Godhead of being crooked because some people are happy and some people are not. Here the Queen blames the Supreme Providence for her son's death. Following the creative laws, a father should die first and then his son. If the creative laws are changed according to the whims of Providence, then Providence certainly should not be considered merciful, but must be considered inimical to the created being. Actually, it is not the Creator, but the conditioned soul who is inexperienced. He does not know how the subtle laws of fruitive activity work, and without knowledge of these laws of nature, he ignorantly criticizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, many times it's very easy for us to criticize Krishna, and it's a natural reaction many times, but we should understand actually that our own distress is due to our own actions. It's not due to it's not Krishna's fault when something goes wrong in our life. So this is a very important principle to note down. You want to add to that, please? It's a very powerful purport.
Yeah, it is quite natural, isn't it? When things are happening okay, then we don't mind. We may not give credit to Krishna at all, but we don't criticize Krishna, at least devotees. But when things does not go according to our plan, we criticize the Lord. But there is superior plan. We have to be patient with that situation. That's what a devotee does. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are so many examples of devotees. So, and we do, we all get tested time to time. That is the nature of spiritual world. And
So in conclusion, the lamentation is happening. Chitraketu Maharaj has become completely morose, he's completely heartbroken, and so is Kritadyuti, as they should be. And so are the people, the society. Basically, everyone in the kingdom is lamenting except for the co-wives. In that sorry situation, Angira Muni goes along with Narada Muni. And we'll see what happens there in the next chapter. So, to summarize the lessons that we discussed today, taking shelter of Srila Prabhupada, the first thing that we discussed is the rarity of devotional service. Parikshit Maharaj has asked, how is it Vritrasura is a pure devotee? Because pure devotion is so rare. Pure devotees are peaceful. Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Saklaya Shanta Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Atayeva Shanta. In that fifth verse, Muktanam Api Siddhanam Narayana Parayana. that it's so rare. Bahunam janmanam ante. It's so rare for us to become a devotee, so we should utilize that opportunity. That's the first lesson. Then after that, we hear about Chitraketu Maharaj. He's anxious for a son, although he has all opulences. Everything is there. The earth is providing grains. He has beautiful wives. He has an opulent kingdom. Everything is there. Prosperity, wealth, whatever you want, he had it. But he didn't have a son. That was the only thing. And therefore he was extremely in anxiety.
So
Angira Muni comes.
there is a but in the life.
Yeah. Angira Muni comes and he scans him like an X-ray machine. So the pure devotees, they have this ability of scanning like an X-ray. And then he reveals, like, this is my problem, I do not have a son. So the thing is, whenever everything is there in life, we will always have some kind of something which will cause us distress in the material life. I want to remind you, the same Chitraketu becomes Vritrasura, okay? And he becomes a demon, and that's when he becomes a completely pure devotee. So it's actually a reverse if you calculate materially. I'm going too many chapters ahead, but if you calculate materially, demon is when he's happiest. When everyone's criticizing him, when everyone's looking down on him, when the people are inimical towards him, that time he's a pure devotee, he's happiest. So by material calculation, it's opposite, because we expect Chitraketu, he had honor, he had reputation, he had wealth, he had prosperity. Surely that time he should be happy. But he was not. He was in anxiety. And we'll discuss that again.
But in the body of demon, the previous chapter in Vritrasura, he was really happy.
He was so happy that he was instructing Indra, the king of the Devatas, you know?
Not
So
being afraid of death.
We can't kind of do, like, many times our material analysis is like this, right? We think, like, logically, let me think about it logically, okay? Like, in this situation, if this happens, that's when I'm going to be happiest. I mean, Srila Prabhupada himself says many times, my spiritual master instructed me on our first meeting that I should preach in the English language. And I thought, I will become a very wealthy businessman and then I will preach. But Krishna had different plans. And he says, if you can, I will send a clip in the chat. He says, I have my practical experience. Krishna made me surrender to him. Krishna made me dependent on him. My plans were, I'll become very rich and I will preach. And the astrologer said it's possible as well. But Krishna had his different plans. And you know what? Many of us, we think, why did Krishna put in so much difficulty? You know why? Because now, you can never say, oh, but Prabhupada had money, that's why he could do. He didn't have money. You can never say, Prabhupada had so many brahmacharis, therefore he didn't have any brahmacharis. Prabhupada didn't have resources, he didn't have, the only thing he had faith in Krishna. So that proves to us, we have no arguments now. Krishna comes to us and says, hey, Sundar Chaitanya, why are you not preaching? I don't have an argument, I can't say anything. Because Srila Prabhupada has proven the only thing you need is shelter of the Supreme Lord. So in this way, if you calculate materially, that's a reversal. But can any of us say that Srila Prabhupada is unsuccessful? It looks like, he left his wife, he lost his business. All of this is materially, it's going backwards. But actually, for us, it's showing that Krishna's plan is different to our plan. So we cannot compare like that. Okay, so he explains his cause of anxiety. And then he gets a son. Angira Muni does a yajna, gives the prasadam to Kritadhyuti, he gets a son, he becomes overly attached, he becomes too happy, and he overly rejoices and he tries to celebrate. And the lesson we learned from that section was tolerate the happiness, tolerate the misery. Do not become too happy when you're happy, otherwise the distress will send you into depression. And happiness is merged with distress like a tape recorder. They will come together. They are not individual or isolated. And then, of course, success brings envy. That's the first thing. And the other thing that we learned is the opposite of Suniti. So that time when she had a problem with co-wife, she made Dhruva Maharaj into a pure devotee. But these co-wives, they try to kill the son. So it shows the demoniac versus the divine mindset. Devotee takes challenge or difficulty or distress as an opportunity to connect to Krishna. But a materialist thinks of it as an opportunity to become the master themselves. And then finally, this lamentation, this deep lamentation, is teaching us the simple lesson that for all attachment there is misery. For all attachment there is misery. For all happiness in this world there is misery. And There is nothing we can do about that. That is the nature of the material reality. Chitraketu had everything you could ever want. Still, he ended up in this kind of situation. Okay, so the lessons overall, just quickly recapping. Rarity of devotional service. Okay, a pure devotee can scan that we will always have some misery in this world. Okay, even if that misery is overcome and we become happy, if we overly enjoy, even that happiness is then coupled with misery. And so this is a principle is being taught to us that happiness and misery come together in this world. Do not become overly happy when the happiness comes. Do not become overly distressed when the misery comes. If we are overly attached to something, then when that thing goes, we become insane and mad and lament like anything. And so we should try and overcome that. So for all attachment, there is misery. And this is the conclusion of this chapter. Narad Muni and Angira have come. They are like perfectly placed in the story. Narad Muni is always, he knows exactly the right time to come into the stories. So he's coming right now into this pastime. We'll discuss that second part of this next week. Thank you all so much for listening. And I hope this has provided some conviction in Srila Prabhupada's work, in the point that reversals are actually a beautiful thing in our life. Does anyone have any burning questions before we go?
Not a question, but there is a comment actually. This envy was, while listening to the class, one point was talking, and because Krishna in Bhagavad Gita many times that, and in the purport Prabhupada says, because of the envy, we cannot go to Krishna. And in the devotees description, Anasuya Vijnanam Vijnana, that Anasuya, not having the envy, that is repeatedly come up. And I was listening to one lecture. If we are envious to someone, so because every living entity is part and parcel of Krishna, indirectly we are envious of Krishna. So if we are envious of anyone, that will stop our progress in spiritual life. So envy is such a danger, it may look like it's okay to be little envious if I don't have something that others have, but it's very, very, very detrimental for the spiritual progress.
Envy means NV. NV, no vacancy. That's what it means for our spiritual life. Okay? You can actually keep some of the anarthas and they can become spiritualized. So lust becomes love, right? Anger becomes into spiritual anger, like Radharani gets angry on Krishna. Envy has no place in the spiritual world. So there are some anarthas, they become converted into spiritual kind of ornaments, but the anartha of envy or jealousy, it is destroyed completely. Otherwise one cannot go back to the spiritual world. In the Ramayana, when Hanuman is crossing, one of the demons, he completely destroys her. Yeah? I don't know if you know this story, Simhika. So she swallows him and he bursts out through the tummy. And there, Veeraraghavacharya and our Gaudiya Vaishnava commentators, the Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Prabhupada, they say that Simhika represents envy. So with Mainaka, who represents material opulence, it's not so bad. You can carry on your spiritual life. With, other Surasa, who is representing the danger of, getting distracted, it's okay. It won't kill your spiritual life. But envy kills one's spiritual life. Because when we become envious, especially of devotees, then we cause Vaishnava Parada. And you will see that anyone that's killed or anyone that's considered a demon is considered a demon because they are envious of devotees. Do you know why Narasimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu?
He's envious of Prahlad.
Yeah, the internal reason the Acharyas explain is because he did Vaishnava Parad to Prahlad Maharaj. Durvasa Muni got put in a very stressful situation because of his Vaishnava Parad to Ambarish Maharaj. Jada Bharat, the followers of Kali were killed by Kali herself because they offended the Vaishnava, Jada Bharat. They were envious. So whenever the envy is there in the spiritual life, it's impossible. Therefore, gratitude should be cultivated. His Grace Burujana Prabhu, Kadamba Kanana Maharaj, Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj, they repeatedly emphasize the point of a gratitude journal. That devotees should maintain a document, either a physical document or a word document, where they simply write down what they are grateful for in their spiritual life. Because if you do not do this, you will take everything for granted and you will become envious. And once we are envious, we destroy our spiritual life by Vaishnava Parad. So thank you. That's a very last point. Sorry, I've gone so over time. I'm gonna stick to the time again. In the please pray for me. Please bless me that I will learn the art of time management in lectures. I just get very immersed in the Bhagavatam and I don't want to finish. So yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, we will stop here.
Thank you, Prabhu. It was lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
devotees.
Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Very nice lecture. Thank you.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
vaishnavebhyo namo
Vaishnavebhyo namo
namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki
Pada
jai.
ki
Yeah.
jai.
Gaura Premanandi. Hari Hari.
Hari Hari
Hari
Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So